Well, it's that time again. The international release of Black and White 2 is now behind us. The Pokémon League anime arc is going to begin in a few weeks, which means that we're not too far away from the silly season that is going to lead up to the release of Generation 6. Now, before Generation 5 came out, I made sort of a wish list as to what kind of moves and abilities I would like to see improved upon, maybe even nerfed, and apparently Game Freak took a few notes from that because they actually implemented some of my suggestions. Nah, it probably has nothing to do with me, though it's still fun to pretend. So, with Generation 6 hopefully not being too far off, it's time to take a good look at some moves and abilities that need improving. Now, I am going to, first, before I go into any new suggestions, I am going to come back to those that I made last time that didn't go through, that I still think need to happen. So let's get started! Number 1. Nerf Stealth Rock. Oh please, nerf Stealth Rock. There isn't a single move in the game that you don't want to be weak to as much as Stealth Rock. It's so ubiquitous that it's even included in most damage calculations, like this is going to be a 2-hit KO after Stealth Rock damage, and such, which tells you that it's just way too good. Many Pokemon are made much worse, or simply not viable at all, simply because they are weak to Stealth Rock. So my suggestions is to not reduce the base damage of Stealth Rock. I think 12.5% is fine, but rather apply diminishing returns on super effective damage. So for example, if you just have a double weakness to Stealth Rock, for example, as you can see in the chart here, you would take 1/6 of your max HP in damage as opposed to a quarter. And if you have a quadruple weakness to Stealth Rock, like for example Charizard and Yanmega, stuff like that, then you're going to take a quarter of your max HP in damage instead of half. Having a quadruple weakness to Rock is much more crippling than any other quadruple weakness in the entire game, obviously, especially not Fire, considering that as I'm doing this, 3 of the top 5 Pokemon on the overused ladder are quadruple weak to Fire, but that's not the point. The point is, Stealth Rock is just too good. Just nerf the super effective damage. Do something, I don't care. As long as it makes those Pokemon that are weak to it suddenly a bit more viable, then I'm all for it. Number 2. Improve the other multi-hit moves, those that weren't boosted in Generation 5. And this is what I was talking about earlier when I said that Game Freak implemented some of my ideas for Generation 5. They improved the accuracy on Rock Blast. They also gave a massive improvement to the power of Bullet Seed and Icicle Spear, as you can see with the Techniloom reigning supreme and Cloyster suddenly becoming really good with a combination of Icicle Spear and Skill Link and Shell Smash and so on. But there are still many other multi-hit moves that were untouched and need improvement, such as, for example, Barrage, Double Slap, Fury Attack. Now you may be wondering, why would you want to increase them? Not only are they normal type, but they're meant to be like low-level in-game kind of moves. Well, that's the entire point. They're normal type moves. They're never going to be super effective against anything, so the fact that they're so weak just means that they're going to be even more useless considering their typing. I mean, they buffed Tackle in Generation 5, so why not give those moves a much needed boost as well? So for those 3 moves, I would suggest going from 15 power and 85 accuracy 225 power, and 90 accuracy, which would be the same as a Rock Blast. Note that I'm refraining from going all the way through to 100 accuracy because I think it was sort of a mistake to give Bullet Seed and Icicle Spear this much damage output. Then again, there is something to counteract the fact that, the power might be higher and stuff. It's the fact that, and it's not new to Generation 5, by the way. It's always been the case ever since Red and Blue first came out, or should I say the Japanese Red and Green, is that there's much more of a chance that you'll hit 2 or 3 times than 4 or 5. And it's not just an impression some people might have either. It's in the game code. It's proven. So, yeah, those moves really, really need improvement because as it stands, they're still much worse than Tackle, and all they have is that sub-breaking aspect, which is just not enough considering their low damage output. So, I'd say improve these moves. Now, of course, these 3 moves aren't the only 3 that should be targeted for improvement, in my opinion. So let's go over those other moves that should be buffed as well. Fury Swipes, which is currently a more powerful but less accurate counterpart to Fury Attack. I would buff that to 25 power and 90 accuracy as well, matching Rock Blast once again. And once again, the same thing that I said about Fury Attack applies for Fury Swipes. It's a normal type move. It's already inconsistent as it is. Its damage output will still be very, very meh. All it will really have going for it is the sub-breaking power, as well as a chance at being stronger than Return every once in a while, but I'm making myself no illusions here. Return is still going to be used all the time over Fury Swipes whenever given the opportunity, which is always because Return is universal. Next we have Bone Rush, which used to have the same power and accuracy as Rock Blast, but whereas they boosted Rock Blast's accuracy, they forgot to do the same for Bone Rush, so it's time to make up for it and increase the accuracy not just to 90, but to 100, because look at the learn base. We got Marowak, Mandibuzz, and Lucario. Of course, Lucario is a very good Pokemon, but when was the last time you saw a Lucario with Bone Rush? I mean, even if it were boosted to 100 accuracy, Earthquake would still be an infinitely better choice due to the higher damage output. Once again, I don't think the sub-breaking ability of Bone Rush would really be so compelling that you'd want to use it over Earthquake, but that's why we at least gotta try and buff it, so that it becomes sort of an option instead of, oh wow, I didn't even know Lucario learned Bone Rush. And as for Mandibuzz and Marowak, well, when was the last time you saw one of these two being used? I mean, sure, Marowak has the highest attack in the game courtesy of the Thick Club held item, but still, that's nowhere near enough to get it any kind of use at all. So improving Bone Rush's accuracy could only be useful for both of them. Not that it's going to revolutionize the way they're being played, because once again, Earthquake is just so much better. But still, it's there if you want it, I guess. And as for Comet Punch, well, it's pretty much the same deal, with a very, very limited learn base, which is made of Hitmonchan, Kangaskhan, Ledian, and Conkeldurr. Of these, of course, only Conkeldurr is of any use whatsoever, so I really have no qualms to give it, 25 power, 100 accuracy, same as Icicle Spear and Bullet Seed. And one thing that I think should be done would be to change the type to fighting, because even if it stayed normal, Return would pretty much obsolete it every time, so making it into a fighting move might, just might, give it a niche. I'm not saying it will probably give it so. For example, let's take Conkeldurr. The Drain Punch should be pretty much considered stapled on Conkeldurr. I can't really imagine a Conkeldurr without Drain Punch, even though there are some sets that exist. But I love Drain Punch on Conkeldurr too much to ever get rid of it. Well, Comet Punch would have the same damage output provided that the average amount of times that it's going to hit is 3. The only thing it would have over Drain Punch would be the sub-breaking aspect, but then again, it would be so inconsistent that, just stick to Drain Punch. I know I might not be buffing these moves as much as they should, but I'm sort of wary of going overboard with them just because of cases like Technician Breloom that can just wreck stuff with Bullet Seed, for example, and that's why I am not too tempted to go overboard, but at least make those moves more than negligible. Now moving on to those moves that only hit twice, but thus are more consistent. First we got Double Kick, which has an interesting learn base, but at 30 power times 2, it's just a bit too low. So I'd say increase it to 40 power, and it would probably have a slight effect considering, well, that would mean a total of 80 power spread out over 2 hits. That might actually give some Pokemon that don't have many options in the fighting type, well, here, you got a viable Double Kick, so you might as well use it. At 80 power, it's where it really begins to show, that a move can be viable, especially when spread out over 2 hits. Double Hit has a much smaller learn base, which especially includes Ambipom with Technician. Nonetheless, I don't feel like it would be overkill to improve it to 40 power and 100 accuracy compared to the 35 power and 90 accuracy right now, considering that Ambipom is just not... It's a pretty good Pokemon, but it could do with some improvement, and improving what amounts to basically its signature move would be a great move. Now, we have Dual Chop, which has 40 power and 90 accuracy, making it a slightly less accurate version of Dragon Claw in exchange for hitting over 2 hits. Now, Dragon moves, as you may or may not know, are fairly useless on Pokemon that aren't Dragon types, so the only 2 Pokemon that are Dragon types that get this move, that could get some use out of it, would be Garchomp and Haxorus. Now, Haxorus is a great Pokemon, but I don't think improving the accuracy of Dual Chop is going to do anything to break it. And as for Garchomp, yeah, I know it probably should still be in Ubers right now. You all know my feelings on the situation. But hopefully, by the time the next generation comes out, the power creep will have reached a point where Garchomp can be allowed and overused without having any bullshit bans on evasion and stuff like that. And should that scenario occur, well, if 10 extra accuracy on Dual Chop would be enough to break Garchomp, I'm just gonna quit Pokemon because that wouldn't make any sense whatsoever. And as for all the other Pokemon that learn it, well, Dual Chop has a rather extensive learn base because it's a move tutor in Black and White too. But as I just said, Dragon moves just aren't worth using very much if you don't get stab on them just because it doesn't provide very good type coverage. You might see Outrage Gyarados every once in a while, but other than that, it's just not worth it. So even there, I don't think adding 10 accuracy to Dual Chop is suddenly going to force everything that can run it to actually run it.